Thank you for your opening statement, as well as Senator Blumenthal's. Mr. Secretary, nice to see you again. I was thinking here that in the time that you've been the Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs, I've had more opportunity to have conversations with you than any other Cabinet Secretary. I appreciate that. I'll see you in the Appropriations Committee on this topic again in a few weeks. But I don't feel like the circumstances that I keep explaining and expressing concern about are being addressed. And therefore, the problem is, while I have more time to speak to you than I've had with any other Cabinet Secretary, I must be failing in my ability to deliver the message that I want to deliver, because I have no doubt but what you care about the results that I'm seeking. So I'm going to try one more time to express to you as the Secretary and to members of your team where I think we're still failing, in hopes that my communication skills this time are sufficient to get change at the department. You would expect me to talk about the 40-mile issue, and I will, but it's broader than that. What troubles me, and again, I know you've been in office a short period of time, but I will tell you the complaints that I have from veterans in Kansas about the quality of the service, the timeliness of their being seen by a physician, their ability to access care is no less today than it was a year ago. I would tell you that the success of claims, while your numbers indicate that the length of time for which claims over 125 days are pending is improving, the number of veterans who come to me, to my staff, asking for help with a long pending claim is no different. I worry that we're setting the stage for another kind of scandal, similar to the one about the fake lists, the waiting lists, because your numbers are affected by claims that are being appealed. And I think one of the things that's happening at the VA, you've shortened the number of claims that are pending, but they're now just in a different category, waiting appeal, and the end result is our veterans are still waiting. There is no sense of the employees at the Department of Veterans Affairs that I visit with in hospitals and facilities across Kansas that there's any more direction from the Department of Veterans Affairs in Washington, D.C. directed to them and how to manage their operations, or any more freedom to make decisions at home than there was before. In a sense, there is no change that emanates from Washington, D.C., so that folks who are on the front line of delivering care to veterans feel like they know better what to do or have flexibility to make the decision about what they should do. There is no sense, to my knowledge, I mean, you can convince me that there has been accountability since the scandals of a year ago, that we're still awaiting for the Department of Veterans Affairs to handle employees who conducted themselves inappropriately, perhaps illegally. And when I raise topics of concern about a specific veteran in a setting like this, my veteran gets attention, which I appreciate. But I can tell you, as soon as the spotlight is over, that veteran is back to the same position he or she was in before I raised their claim with the Department of Veterans Affairs. So they get a moment of reprieve, but it doesn't last. Mr. Secretary, then when it comes to the 40 miles, that background, I hope, suggests to you where I'm coming from in my skepticism about the Department's implementation of the Choice Act. And 40 miles is a significant component of that, but not the only aspect. And it's not just the 40 miles, within the 40 miles, and it's incidentally, I don't know, 42 senators, I'm not the mile guy. 42 senators sent you a letter indicating our preference about how this should be implemented, related to, this is Senator Collins' letter, related to, as the crow flies, as well as to whether a facility that doesn't provide the service that a veteran needs should be counted as a facility. The problems are beyond that, in the implementation of the Choice Act, are beyond just that 40-mile issue. When a veteran signs up, and you indicated 500,000 veteran calls, the problem is when you call, you're often told you don't qualify, you're not on our list, but then there's nothing a veteran can do about to say, wait a minute, I should be, I am. There's no appeal process for a veteran who should be on the list to get on the list. You are requiring prepayment of co-payments, causing veterans to pay more money for their health care if they choose the Choice Act, in a sense discouraging that choice. In addition to that, trying to get community providers signed up for services. I've been trying for months to get community mental health centers to be able to be one of the providers of those services, unsuccessful. We have a provider who says, I'm going to lose money, but I've decided I want to do this, but I can't get the VA to even approve me to be a provider under the Choice Act. So the concern I have is that the VA has a mentality against outside care, even in the circumstances of can't get service within 30 days or within 40 miles. And that is highlighted by just a couple more points, Mr. Chairman. That's highlighted by the fact that when we attempted to implement the ARCH program, the VA was not at all interested in seeing, in my view, its success. In fact, we came across an email from the VA in D.C. instructing the VA in Wichita not to promote, market, or encourage participation in ARCH, suggesting to me that there is this approach or attitude against outside care. And finally, Mr. Secretary, while you've been available, in fact, you asked Deputy Secretary Gibson to come see me, the President's budget request, you're going to artfully change your words a bit today, and I appreciate that, but the suggestion that the money could be used for higher priorities within the VA is troublesome to me because it again demonstrates the lack of interest in this program. And when Deputy Secretary Gibson came to see me, he told me we couldn't do the 40 miles because we couldn't afford it. Now I'm told we need to move the money out because it's, in a sense, not a priority. But then I will tell you a few days later, Dr. Tushman was in our office indicating that the only cost estimates of the Choice Act were on the back of a napkin. We don't have the information to determine what the costs are. So we're told it's expensive by the Deputy Secretary. We're told by the number 2 person at VA Health. We don't really have numbers. And so all of this, again, I try to be very optimistic. And all this is couched in the terms of I thought and want great things to happen with your arrival at the department. I thought Congress finally got its act together. We actually could function. Republicans and Democrats come together and pass a piece of legislation that has value. And I want to see its success.